Welcome back to Apex Underground. We're going to get into part two of a crazy ass story um, about a cucking situation and a threesome situation, and it's nuts, right? I'll recap the first part if you haven't seen it, but it was shown a couple weeks ago before the holidays. Anyway, I'm on this topic or on this story because there's a lot to be learned here, even if you're not going to do like kind of have the ratchet lifestyle that maybe these people might have, not to pass like too much judgment or whatever, but even if your lifestyle is completely different, even if you're fairly conservative, there's a lot to be learned here about female nature, about male nature, about how to handle certain situations, about confidence, about bedroom stuff, and all sorts of things that you're going to learn. So here we are. All right, guys, welcome back. Happy New Year, everybody. Hopefully, you guys had a good time over the holidays. I have been overcoming some sort of crazy infection, virus slash that morphed into a sinus and ear infection. And so I've kind of been out for almost a couple weeks now because my ear has been plugged and it's like I've had a constant headache really just until a few days ago. So it's been pretty rough. I've never been this sick before. But hopefully it's turning around. It seems to be turning around. I feel much better at least. And I'm back. And there's a lot more things and better things to talk about than this topic. I actually got quite a list of things to talk about and things for us to go through that are going to help you with your mindset, help you with your relationships and your dating circumstances and all that stuff, right? And even if you're single and picking up, we got all kinds of things. So yeah, dude, it sucks. I don't usually get sick though, man. Like I don't get sick. Um, quite a few other people got it too, got different things going on. I don't usually get sick, but like if something makes it through my pretty strong immunity system, it's whatever it is bad. And it just like, it's just terrible. And it's putting me out. I can't, I think it was a couple of years ago, I was having some throat issues. Maybe it was 3 years ago now that I think about it. I got really like bad infection in my throat that just didn't want to go away. And, but that wasn't as bad as what I just experienced and I'm on the tail end of. Like, I don't get this sick. The headaches were debilitating. It really screwed me for a couple of weeks. I guess in some ways I'm grateful though, it was around the holidays because I just was able to relax, and, enjoy my girlfriend, enjoy my family, and just get a bunch of rest. So it wasn't like I had a bunch of things going on to pressure me to do things to perform, thankfully. So I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for my health. And that goes for another thing, man. You guys really need to take care of your health, both inside and out, and not just your physique and fitness so you can look good for the ladies, but your overall health in general, your internal health and all of those things. Because yeah, dude, so you're like the third or fourth I'm about the fourth person now. So we went to the ER for headaches, bro. I had to do the same thing. That's crazy, man. So this is obviously a thing. So be aware there's a thing going around. I don't know, Brandon, I don't know where you're from. I'm out in Midwest, I'm in Michigan. But like, dude, like it's like this, it starts out like a normal, like, okay, I got the seasonal sniffles, right? I feel that kind of weakness. My sinuses are bothering me. Take a little bit of Sudafed or something, and I'm fine, right? Usually 3 to 5 days, you're back to normal. It doesn't even really disrupt your schedule that much. But then it was like 2 or 3 days of that morphed into like I can't hear out my left ear, and I got pressure headaches. Anyway, it was a mess. Luckily. Or yeah, you're all the way out in Oregon, dude. Like what? But I've heard this thing. So it's obviously a thing. It's not just me. It's a thing that's kind of there that is able to affect some people. I mean, if you got 4 people that have gone through literally the same thing within the last month, that's something that might be going around. what is it? A corticosteroid. So that's what helped my headaches. I don't know what, I have good doctors, really, like not everybody has great doctors. And so besides antibiotics, the corticosteroids, the oral corticosteroids was helping with the ear infection and the headaches. That made that go away. I was on 800 milligrams of ibuprofen and it was barely touching the headaches. So it's something about the pressure and the swelling in the head with those sinuses that the corticosteroid, like an oral corticosteroid, progesterone or whatever it is, well, that'll help you. So, if you're seeing a doctor, going to the ER, see if you can get some of that, and that's going to hopefully help you out. Anyway, so back to topics. This is turning into a freaking discussion about bugs and viruses going around, whatever. But yeah, back to this whole thing. So you guys remember, for those guys who saw it, went over a crazy ass story last time we talked, and I got so many other probably more important topics to talk about, but I do want to finish this one. And the story was all about this this chick, this guy and this girl. They wanted to have, and the guy pushed it. This is so lesson number one, guys. You're seeing a girl, she'll be in your frame. You got to be careful for the things that you want, for the things that you push for, and this is why I speak against things like polyamory, open polyamory, at least where the girl is banging other dudes, because I know these are recipes for failure. All right. I know these are recipes for problems, and I don't want you to run into problems and failures, right? You're going to, and there's a lot of counter information out there on the internet that wants to sort of equalize everything. That wants to say that, everything is fine and subjective, and only, it all depends on like the individuals and the persons and all that. And that's not entirely true with the way that it's being presented. There are objective truths and objective reality. There's a subjectiveness to how we interpret those and how we apply the realities of the world into our life. So subjective truth and reality is important. The subjective nature of things is important. Your emotions and the girl's emotions are all important. Okay. But that doesn't negate the fact that there's objective realities. And one objective reality happens to be that if you're introducing another dude into the picture in your relationships, it's not going to work out for you for a long-term relationship. Now, if it's casual relationship, if it's more of I could say a shallow, less deep, casual situation, okay, what's our definition of it working out then? But if you're trying to build a life with somebody, if you're trying to have a deeper relationship with somebody where you guys have some level of responsibility towards each other, and you could say some level of not reliance, like you couldn't do without it, but we'll say trust and certain expectations out of each other, like a relationship, right? Throwing another dude into the picture is not good. Even if you're bringing other girls in, it doesn't work the other way around. Men and women are different. Our brains operate different. And at a reproductive level, our brains operate different. One thing, is just understanding how hypergamy works. It's not the only drive out there that's going on in a woman's brain, but it is a primary driver when it comes to sexual selection and how her desire is going to operate for you in that relationship. You have to understand that women are designed to, well, both men and women really are designed to destroy their relationships within a couple of years, and then move on to new mates. Mate switching and having babies with multiple people in tribes are how we evolved. I'm not saying you can't have long-term happy relationships. Like, I'm not saying you can't have long-term monogamous happy relationships. You can, right? You absolutely can have that, but it's not going to happen naturally. And that's some of the topics we'll be getting into in other shows, but There's a mistake happening in the Christian conservative world, particularly, which assumes that men and women naturally fit together for this long-term marital situation. And that's absolutely not true. Okay. I'm not saying that, from a person's religious perspective, that they're wrong to think that God bonds them together or anything like that. I'm not saying that the thought about their spiritual beliefs is wrong. It's not about the spiritual beliefs. It's about biology. But the animal side of us, the biological side of us, we're not meant to be with a long-term partner for life. That's not how we're designed, period. All right. And even, I'll be addressing this in another show, even the virgin bride situation, more likely, certainly, for them to be able to be in a long-term happy relationship, but it's still not certain because of our drives towards mate switching, our drives towards procreating with multiple people to ensure survival of the species. These drives compete with our other desires for these long-term relationships. Again, you can totally have them and you're not necessarily losing. I would say you're gaining. I mean, if you want to become a millionaire or a billionaire, all right, a multimillionaire, you have to make some sacrifices and you have to do certain things with your life, and you have to handle your internal innate drives a certain way, or you will not have millions of dollars. You will fall to short-term thinking, short-term gratification, and you'll never get ahead. You'll never make it because that's how your brain is designed. But yet people have long, happy lives as wealthy people and as successful people all the time, right? So you can have long-term goals. You can have long-term success in your relationships, but you got to know that your brain isn't designed for that. Men and women are not designed to be happily ever after in that way. They're really not. There's a divisive relationship between men and women. Just go on Twitter. Go on Instagram. Go watch the divisiveness between men and women unfold. And it's not that feminism created that. It's always been there. Because by having a level of divisiveness there, we can destroy our relationships and create new ones every few years until we're dead. And that creates more diversity in the gene pool. And so that's the theory anyway. So what that means is we have to do certain things in order to have our benefits of a long-term relationship. There's a ton of benefits for long-term relationship success. I advocate for that. That's what I try to do, versus just having a lot of casual partners for the rest of my life. I think it's way more beneficial for me personally and for women to have long-term relationships. But there's certain things you have to do in order to make that happen. It will not happen on accident or naturally without having to work on anything or do anything. And that's especially true with women. Women have to do things and work on things about themselves if they want long-term success, which means you as a man have to set the frame for them to do things and work on themselves for long-term success. If not, you will not have long-term success because our natural drives will not take us there. Our natural tendencies with no work on ourselves whatsoever, men or women, will not put us into a long-term happy marriage situation, or if that's what you're looking for. It doesn't have to be marriage by the state, but even just a long-term relationship. You want kids, or you want, even if you're 50 years old and you want to meet somebody and live till you're 80 with that person, that's still 30 years. You know what I mean? You're not designed for that. Like, your brain isn't necessarily designed for it. So you're either going to have lukewarm, not as good relationships, not really as happy, not as intense, right? Not as good, but living together and making it, getting along to get along. And that'll last for a while. That's what most of the relationships turn into. Or you're just going to break up, right? And you're going to destroy it. So at any rate, there's certain things we have to do. And, I'm on that tangent because a lot of these things that people do, like with this couple in this crazy situation, obviously they're young and all that, but, they're not setting themselves up for long-term success. And the things that they're doing in this scenario are polluting their minds and imprinting their sexual triggers for future relationships, both the men and the women involved. And the one who's really losing is the boyfriend in the story. He's the one who's losing out probably the most. But jump over the super chat real quick. Thanks for the super, by the way. Yeah, if you guys got questions or comments that want to get noticed, throwing a little $sign on it helps get the algorithms going. They're not very friendly to content like mine, so every little bit helps. Did some homework on this. M8, Mr. 19 had extra skills from experience courses. Girl was comparing boyfriend to her ex, who was smaller. Yeah, okay. Well, let's see now. Girls compare, and we're going to get into this. Girls are always comparing. This is the thing about hypergamy. There's two universal truths here. Every woman in a relationship is going to try to emasculate you. That is number one truth. And I'm saying that, I've said that in different ways on this show, but I'm saying it in a different way here, which is they're going to try to emasculate you. Your shit tests are attempts at emasculation. Little sabotaging things that they do are attempts at emasculation. All right. Comparing you to other people and maybe not, trying to, it's a form of emasculation if she's not seeing you as the better option. They can't help it. Okay. They're going to do it. And the key is that you don't allow yourself to be emasculated with your frame. That's how it works. You don't reward emasculating behavior. You remove reward or give consequence for emasculating behavior. So she learns in the relationship that under no uncertain circumstances is she going to be able to treat you like that. That's how it works. That is how you win, and that she wins too. Without that, she will emasculate you. Okay, that's the truth. A universal one. And they're all going to do that. Every single woman. All right. And people hate it. Oh, like not all women. Yes, every single woman. It's going to be degrees, and it's going to be a matter of degree, and it's going to be a matter of how. Okay, but it's always there. They can't help it. And that's what hypergamy does. You see, she goes with the guy that she sees as genetically advantageous for her to mate with, right? There's some qualities about this guy that makes him a better genetic option for producing children. That's what makes her attracted to that guy. But if it's not the best she's ever done, here's what happens. Ex-boyfriend, who was a drug dealer or something, he was top hypergamy experience for her because all of his asshole traits signaled, that he was a bad boy and he was super survivable. So on the bad boy scale, he's way up there, really got the sexual juices flowing for her. That's where her maximum desire was. But he didn't have any of the qualities that would be good for settling down or, creating a family with. So she knew she couldn't stay with that guy. So she goes with a guy who is also genetically an advantage for her. She hopes, right? She thinks, but also has a lot of provisioning possibilities. But here's the problem. She already experienced high intense guy over here, alpha guy. He's not necessarily really alpha, but that's just her subjective experience, right? So she experiences that guy over here. So that means she's going to constantly test and question this next guy who's not the bad boy. Is he really, genetically advantageous? And could I do better? And unfortunately, she has done better. She has done better with bad boy on the genetics, attraction scale, right? On the desire scale, the alpha, F's alpha bangs scale, okay? Aside of strategic pluralism, she's done better before. Once she's experienced that better, she thinks she's settled now. Her mind makes her think that she is settled. And in some ways she did, and she settled for provisioning. So now she's going to constantly test and try to emasculate this guy because he doesn't fully trust his alpha male leadership because he's not the best she's done on the bad boy scale. So because she doesn't trust his leadership, that lack of trust makes her want to control the outcomes. And in order for her to control the outcomes, she has to be in power. In order to have power now, she has to emasculate her partner. And this is what you see marriages all across the land, everywhere. That's what women are doing. They just emasculate their partners, eventually removing sex, having no sexual desire. That's usually one of the first things that'll go. I mean, within a year after getting married, women are having sex with their men less because they're desiring them less, because they're not getting the provisioning and the transactional things for the sex because they've already gotten that. And so they learn that they can have less sex to get more, right? And that's what they do. And the desire is not fully where she wants it to be because he doesn't have that bad boy energy. He's not the best that she could do, right? And so that's how hypergamy shows up. And so with that hypergamy, she's looking to cuck guys that she's with. Whether she's with, when I say cuck, I mean, could be just mentally, could be emotionally, having male friends around that she would switch to, giving male friends attention and energy and time, to include talking about a relationship, right, with that guy from work that she goes to lunch with or whatever it is, instead of putting that energy in her own relationship. She does that in order to control her desire and control her, her emotions for this guy because she doesn't see him as the best. And that shows up all the time. When she's with you, she's cucking somebody. She's either cucking all the other guys she's ever been with and any guy that would approach her as being inferior sexually from a desire standpoint and seeing you as the best, or she's comparing you to everybody else and emasculating you. Okay. It's one or the other things. And this shows up in the kink world, and you can see how it shows up in this story and how things like the important parts of the story. One really important part is that you guys focus, because you two guys, you fucking don't listen to me and you listen to everybody else instead of listening to me. That's your first problem. I hate to say it. Not everybody, but a lot of people out there, they're just not, they're there to stimulate your anxiety rather than give you the real deal, right? And it's always like they're telling you the truth and the red pill of this and that. But the reality is they're telling you very one-sided binary, situation or whatever. And you guys fall for the shit. You really do. And you fall for the emasculation that women put out there. Women are emasculating you on a massive scale through feminist ideology and packing together on the internet and all kinds of stuff. You guys just fall for the shit, man. And one of the things you guys are falling for is, this is the dick size thing. I have so many, and I talk about that, and I've talked about it in other shows about size and the truth about it and where it matters and where it doesn't, all those things. But guys still won't listen. Doesn't matter. I do these. A lot of you guys do, which is good, especially my loyal following. Like, you guys are smart. That's why you're here. You want elevated discussions. You're not looking for sound bites and, spurred out answers. You want real deal. But a lot of guys, man, no matter what I say, they're so anxious about their D size. And what's interesting is a lot of times the guys who are the most anxious aren't even the ones who I would consider their size being problematic. Like, most of the guys that are super anxious and having massive problems are average size people. They're not, there's nothing to worry about. But yeah, you guys make it into a thing because women have used the size issue to emasculate you. You know what I mean? And it's not to say that, certain sizes can't feel better to a girl or whatever it may be. But so what? So she's hoed around with 30 different people and, she found a certain shape or size she liked better. What's her fucking problem? You know what I mean? Why are you letting 304 behavior and ideology drive your self-esteem? You know what I mean? She doesn't think you're the best. get to the streets with the rest. You know what I mean? Like, and find a better girl. That's it. And you guys get hung up on, oh, I gotta be high value. I gotta be better. I gotta penis pump and take every 4 hours and stretch my dick out to try to gain 2 centimeters so some girl will like me. Like, fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Like it, and then the story is a great story because it shows that stuff doesn't actually matter. What matters is the sexual psychology that's going on. And so what we have here is a situation where the boyfriend was 24, the girl was 22, and the dude was 19. The dude they brought into the relationship was 19. The dude they brought into the relationship for this threesome, which of course we know we never do, was smaller, considerably smaller, a little bit smaller than average. And the boyfriend was a big D guy. Okay, cool. Her words. And she's enjoying emasculating her big D boyfriend with this younger, smaller guy. The younger, smaller guy has better game and has better confidence and actually has less give a fuck, right? And so it's more fun. His better confidence and better internal, he doesn't care. The big difference here between the two is the boyfriend, who's bigger, okay, and by all information out there should be the better sex choice. He even looks better, and he's got all of the qualities physically that all like the black pillars will tell you need in order for a girl to like you or whatever. He's got all those physical qualities. That's why she went with him. But the problem is he is self-conscious about certain things. And when a girl smells your self-consciousness, she doesn't fully trust you. She doesn't trust men. Okay. She is going to take those parts where she sees those self-conscious parts of you, and she's going to attack those. That's what she's going to do. It's what they're designed to do. Okay. Even though this is a 304 scenario, it's not like this girl is like, wife material. That's a mistake that you guys are going to make, is you're going to think that, some girls are, marriage material and some girls are 304s, and you have to pick. It's the Madonna whore complex. You're going to think, well, I got to pick the good girl, right? Because the bad girls are like this. And you realize, no, they're actually all innately like this. In other words, female drives, the cucking thing, hypergamy, all that stuff is a drive. So it exists in every woman. It's just there are some girls who are going to be better for how they see the world and how they use that, and really how they fall into your frame is what matters the most. And some girls are not going to be, as good because of their behaviors and what they've been conditioning for themselves, right? So behaviorally, there's better and there's worse for women, but instinctually, there really isn't that much better or worse. Okay, there's no morality to the instincts. And so you have to understand that your wonderful wife who's had no, that you think is wonderful and on a pedestal has the same drive to emasculate and cuck you, just like some 304s been through 100 dudes. Okay, same drive. When she sees those insecurities, she's going to capitalize on those, which is why being a stronger man mentally and emotionally, your inner game is really the key to everything. The techniques and the tools that I teach are important, but without inner game, you don't have anything. I'll use this opportunity to do a quick plug, of course. You got my inner game, the Alpha Mindset course. It's not that expensive. You can just buy it right now. You have my year-long program where we do inner game and the skills of seduction, everything from dating to relationship management to sex and into even managing breakups. That's all there. Links are in the description. Apex 10, I left the link there, but it's kind of about done now. I don't think I'm going to take really any more people. If someone does schedule and interested in that intense of a program, I'll look at it this month, but I'm not inclined to take any other candidates for that because I'm kind of full for it. But the other programs are there. So anyways, feel free, all right, to do that. Let's get into now the story. So I read, because there's so much to the story. So what happened was, again, if you follow, it's like they had this threesome. The littler guy dominated, and the bigger guy was just like cucked, and she was turned on. Her being turned on wasn't just sex with the other guy. Her being turned on was the emasculation of her boyfriend. Okay. And so you have to understand that drive is there, because you got to figure she's going with somebody who she initially thinks or hopes is genetically hypergamously better. Just by him accepting her in a relationship, he elevates her. Okay. He elevates her closer to his status in terms of how he's perceived. She perceives herself after a point as good, I must be a girl that's quality enough to be at this guy's level. Doesn't matter. Like, understand, like, you could have everything going for you. You could be Superman with $1 billion and a yacht and everything you want in life, and the best at sex, everything. You could pick up a waitress or a hairstylist or something. Nothing wrong with waitress or hairstylist. I'm just using the, average income person. You could pick her up. She could even be like a 7 out of 10. Okay. She could be attractive, but not necessarily, a knockout. And you could be like, I'm going to wife this one up. I really love her. That girl who's got maybe very little going for her, maybe a 7 out of 10, both internally and externally. Let's say she's not even that emotionally mature, mentally mature. You think by punching down, you're going to do better. By the way, that's also a myth, is that you think you're going to punch. When I say punching down, I mean, it's a term, punching up above your weight class, punching below your weight class. You think you're going to, go for a girl that's like way in the mid category, not even like less attractive than you, less all these things. You think you're going to pick her up and that she's going to be so grateful to be with you that you're going to have all this frame. It doesn't always work that way. In fact, a lot of times it doesn't. And here's why it doesn't. It works, by the way, in the dating phase, in initial sex. She's like jumping on the sex and jumping on it and super grateful at first. But here's where it falls apart. Like, that girl, it doesn't matter how low she is, almost, for the most part, as soon as you accept her as a relationship partner and make her status better and above the other girls, she just climbed to your level in her mind. Okay. She's now here. All right. Now, it's important that you're not going to keep her down through toxic ways. You're not going to cut her down. That's one way guys tried to do it. But by not letting her emasculate you, because what happens is she sees you as, oh man, this guy is the best I could ever get. She gets with you. I don't know now. I'm about at where he's at. I don't know if he's really the guy. Maybe I could do better. Then she throws out a shit test, right? Or she does something out of pocket, or she does something to sabotage your success, or like something small, or she does, she's emotionally distraught, or she has a moment of attacking you or whatever. It's important that you maintain your masculine frame and your internal sense of well-being and confidence and handle that appropriately. Because if you don't, what happens is now you don't pass that shit test. And then what happens is she goes, maybe I am better than this guy. Actually, maybe he wasn't who I thought I was, or maybe he's not the man I thought he was. And that's what happens is she starts to question her decisions. She starts to question you, which then makes her trust get less and her attraction pull away. Then the sex becomes less, because you've now, unfortunately, you didn't do sex on your terms. You did it on hers. That's what most guys do, which is a mistake. And, so then that pulls away. So now you have less neurochemicals happening that are bonding, because there's not the sex happening as frequently and as intensely. You see how this just sort of now spirals into the toilet. And then she's looking to cuck you. In other words, maybe this other guy's better than him. Maybe this guy, maybe some guy from my past, so that's what ends up happening. And it's both dread and keeping a masculine frame that keeps her understanding your place, which is, hypergamously the right choice, we'll say, just where you need to be. Now, without you, she wouldn't have the life and the experiences she's having. It creates gratitude in the relationship. She needs to have gratitude for who you are and for what you bring to the table, and not think that she can just interchange that with anybody else, right? When you guys lose these things and let her emasculate you because you're a good guy and all these things, right? Whatever it may be, she now thinks she's better than you. Once she gets there, it's very much a transactional relationship, and she tries to put you into a slavery situation. It's very bad. So that's how these things show up. And at any rate, we're looking at a cucked situation. So I'm going to read some more here. Let me go back we got more supers. Got Better Days again with another one. Thanks again, buddy. Paul, the girl picked the guy. She liked him and wanted the boyfriend to fail. Yes. Yeah, that happens all the time. Yep. And that's happening because of exactly why she'll see the grass greener with some other guy. Understand that the other guy isn't necessarily better. Like, it's all subjective. She could end up with that other guy. She'll do the same thing to him. Unless he holds frame, right? Unless he holds frame and isn't afraid to walk away from the relationship and is able to maintain standards and boundaries, she will emasculate the other guy. Like, women just mate switch. They emasculate men, and then they go to the next guy and they do the same thing, and then they blame the guy every single time. Not all women, okay, but that's the instinct, though, and that's usually what happens. It takes a guy with strong frame to say, "Go away, then. I don't give a shit." All right. If you're gonna, I'm not accepting this emasculation. I'm not, and I'm not affected by it too. Internally, mentally, I'm not affected by your bull stuff. I have higher levels of, handling my emotions, and I'm not getting sucked into this bullshit you're trying to suck me into. We're above this, and you can get on my program, you can be in my frame, or you can get out. And it's not like you're throwing out ultimatums, but that's the climate that's created, and that maintains that you're always the better choice, and that keeps things in line. Women say they want a man to keep her in line. They do. They say that when I'm going crazy emotionally, I want him to be able to keep me in line. I want a man to keep me in check. They say they want that. And then, of course, the guy does that, and then they don't like it. But they need to go through that short term not liking it in order to have long term success. The ones that can't handle it will just end up resenting you, and then it's going to be over with anyway, and that's fine too, right? But the ones that can and can elevate to your frame and your standards, the standards I teach here, well, those are the ones that will have long, happy lives with you, and those shit tests and those problems will be less and less, because the other side of it is you're going to be doing a lot for her too. You're not just, she better fall in line, and then you're not offering anything, right? I mean, you do a lot, you have a lot to add to a relationship that, and there's a lot to you that makes you the better choice. So the key is being the better choice, of course, and being the good guy, but then also not, having the frame, having the leadership, and not being afraid, not being afraid of these things that someone might do to you. But yeah, so anyways, we'll get into now the story. Again, more to the story. So she types in, so she has typed a series of posts, and the story keeps growing. Boyfriend that was unhappy, she writes title, boyfriend that was unhappy about how our MMF threesome went gives 100% to improve in bed. But I still will say beat off. I have to censor, dude, these are so racy, so I'm going to have to struggle to censor these things when I read it. Thinking about the other guy and wanting to have sex with him again. So she is wanting, in this title, she is wanting to have it with the guy that was in the threesome. She's thinking and fantasizing about the guy that she wants to be with, and her boyfriend is trying all of the techniques in the world. And this is what I'm trying to illustrate to you. So this guy has better equipment. We'll say better, okay? It's not really, but subjectively, what the world tells you, he's larger, he's better looking, and is putting all this effort into sexual skill, she's just thinking about the other guy who had some skill, but really was more about himself and had confidence and didn't give a fuck, right? That's important to understand, because a lot of you guys think, and I'm not saying that sexual skill isn't important. Sexual skill is important, but it's, the technique side of it is the least important part. The sexual psychology, and the psychology, what's going on up here, frames everything that's happening physically. The reason why a girl is going to enjoy a man more so than a toy is about what's happening here. The toy can have as powerful of batteries and do all kinds of, vibrations and flips and squirt water in places and sucking and crazy contraption can do whatever down there to create the different sensations, probably at a greater consistency than any human being can, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter, because if it mattered, that's all they would do is why would they be with the guy? Why would they even risk then a one-night stand? You know what I mean? And just stick with these crazy contraptions. The only reason they do that in a relationship is to emasculate the man that she's with. That's the only reason. Oh, you're not good enough for me sexually. I'm going to take out my contraptions now. Like that's why. You know what I mean? And there may be lack of sexual skill the guy has that causes for that too. So there is a level of responsibility a guy does have to have the sexual skill, but it's not all about the skill. All right. It's a part of what makes the skill the skill. In fact, all of what makes the skill is your mental framework and the before, the after, all of the psychological things that are happening in this dynamic. The physical things are a representation of a psychological and emotional exchange that's happening. That's what's more important, not the size of your thing, not the technique on her little clit and little areas down there. Okay, that stuff is not as important. I'm not saying it's not important for you, spurgs that can't think, conceptually. But I'm saying it's not, it's one of the least important, right? More important is the psychology that's happening. And that's what she's demonstrating here. So she writes, average sex with my 7.5 inch current boyfriend, 5 minutes of uncreative foreplay, 4 to 5 minutes of hard pounding, good, but not amazing. The guy lays in bed and says stuff like, no one can F you like me. Seems like you are addicted to my huge D. And I think to myself, bro, this was mediocre at best. No second round orgasm, maybe 1 or 2 orgasms out of 10 times of, 5 out of 10 set, 5 out of 10 sex or whatever. Average sex with my 3.5 inch exes, very creative foreplay, always different, new ideas, goes down on me until I orgasm, starts slowly, increases speed, by a bit. I feel more with my current boyfriend because, let's say, increases speed bit by bit. She says, I feel more than with my current boyfriend because of a good rhythm and knowing how to touch my areas without banging me and making me, and also making me orgasm with his genitals from time to time, 2 or 3 rounds and stuff and whatever. She's just giving this description. She said her exes are like 8 out of 10 if she were to rate them. And then she says the guy from the threesome was maybe 4.5 inches. He was like a sex god. He was like 11 out of 10. All right. So this was what she describes it. So her current boyfriend, who's got all of the equipment and all the stuff, this isn't the only time I've seen this either. I've seen this and heard this before. I've told you guys about it. I just happen to have a whole discussion on a forum I can share with you. But I've seen this before. You know what I mean? And so let me check something real quick. Yeah, okay, good. Making sure my audio is good. But at any rate, so I mean, I've seen this time and time again where a girl is more enamored by a guy who's not the biggest or not the best looking compared to exes she's been with. And a lot of it is like, and that's another thing. A lot of you guys think you guys don't know how to do hypnotic language. This is something I teach in my, year-long program. You guys don't know how to do hypnotic language. You don't know how to, there's the guy's trying to say like, oh, no one can bang you like me. And he's making like, and this was in the other story too that I had read in part 1, he's making a lot of his sex talk all about him and about how great he is, which is coming from a place of lacking confidence within himself and trying to convince the girl. So a lot of you guys do this. You guys put yourself in a place of trying to rationalize. You try to rationalize to this girl why you're better than other guys, whether it's in sex talk or whether it's in conversation. Well, but I'm better because this and that, and you try to rationalize it. And then she's just sitting there going, she's probably nodding her head and going, sure, yeah. But inside, she's like laughing at this guy, thinking he's a dork, thinking that he's, seeing it for the insecurity that it is. And then basically cucking him in your head. Oh my, this is, bro, you're not even mediocre kind of thing. Right. And so your hypnotic language is off. I mean, hypnotic language has to match with reality, and it can't be coming from a place of having a bad internal frame. It's one thing to talk smack and say, you like this, don't you? And, that pussy belongs to me, and some of these different things, right? Those are good things to say. There's good things to say for dirty talk, topic of another show, but, it's got to match a sense of confidence. It's got to be congruent with internal confidence and also congruent with the intensity of what she's experiencing. If she's experiencing something really low intensity and not that great for her, and you're talking smack about it, like talking, shit, like it's the greatest thing on earth, those, now her subjective frame isn't matching up with what she's objectively experienced. And now it's like, no, this isn't right. You know what I mean? And so at any rate, but the big lesson there is it's not what the black pillars say. This guy has everything, and yet he's being emasculated by his girl because of his internal frame, right? So next thread she writes is, boyfriend unhappy that the other guy made me squirt in threesome, but I went for 3 more rounds with the other guy. All right, so they decide to do another encounter. So she goes, 1 weekend before, my boyfriend and I had a threesome. He always believed he's a sex god. He has a big D, but relied too much on his size. So sex was pretty average. When we had a threesome, the other guy gave me way more creative, way more dominant, gave me 2 very intense orgasms. It was the best sex I had ever had, though this guy's D is much smaller. My boyfriend wasn't able to get hard, because he was being emasculated. And when it was his turn, he was pissed about it for days. Then when we started talking about improving our sex life after he got humbled in that threesome, he started listening and started looking to improve really fast. And he did improve really fast. And then something crazy happened yesterday. My boyfriend gave everything so that he brings me maximum fun during sex. Even before the sex started, he created a good atmosphere. He cooked his favorite food and decorated the table. When the sex started, he did really well for his standards. You'll listen to the emasculating language as she talks about him. He also took an incredible amount of time to touch me everywhere. He even asked me if I was into it when we touched, and he kissed my feet. He's never done that before. The feet thing is not fantastic for me, but I like it. And I'm happy that he tries new things to satisfy me. He massaged my feet and even sucked my toes. He does everything for my needs and is almost a bit submissive. All right. So this guy is now trying to use sexual skill to please her, to show her that he's the better of the two. See, this is a bad mental framework. When you guys go into your sexual situations like, I'm going to prove to her that I'm the better sex partner, it's coming from a lack of confidence. It's coming from a poor internal frame. And even if you are doing all of the things, a lot of times what it ends up resulting in is placating to the girl. And then she'll enjoy it from a position of power, not from a position of submission. And it's in a position of sexual submission that's going to cause her to see you as that better option. The position of power makes her feel great because she's the better option, but she's still going to crave other men that are, better than you, as you'll see. She goes, then I grabbed his head and hair again and pressed it firmly against my blank and told him, eat me until I have an orgasm. Before that, I will not allow you to stop. I've never said anything so dominant before, but it felt really good. He gave 100%. Honestly, he still does not have, then she goes into criticizing him. Honestly, he still does not have the right rhythm, but he really did improve. And I noticed how I became more and more horny. To make it easier for him, I held his head the whole time and pressed him where I want him to be. He enjoyed a lot too. When I touched his, rock hard thing with my foot, I think it sounds mean, but I started thinking about our threesome with the other guy. So she's having this guy try his hardest, trying to please his girl from this position of weakness. She's thinking about the other dude, right? This is what happens when girls are cucking you, right? You're trying your hardest to please her in bed, just thinking about somebody else, right? It just made me even more horny. Think about the other guy being better than him, doing all this stuff, makes her emasculate him, gives her a sense of power. And this is the enjoyment she's getting out of it. This, by the way, is a drive for all women. This is not just this one girl. This has excited me so much that I had an intense orgasm after some minutes. He did it really well by his standards. And I wanted to show him that. I made sure to be extra loud the whole time. I saw in his face that he was proud and happy of how much I liked it. This is so pathetic. Then he banged me, imitating again how the other guy made me orgasm. Doggy style and hand on the clit instead of the usual, just a little bit of spanking. I realized his D felt harder than usual, and I liked that he can penetrate me deep. At first, he started fast, then I told him to go slower and pick up the pace. It was fun, but with touching my area with his hands, he was not good at all. I wanted to stimulate myself instead of him, but also avoid making him feel bad. That's why I said grab my neck and spank with the other hand so I could stimulate myself while he was inside. Sorry, I got to find that spot there. I went to another page. She says it was very intense with each of his thrusts. I screamed extra loud to show how good it was. Since he started slowly, he could, go longer than usual. So I can make myself orgasm while he's inside of me. It was great. He said, I gave you an orgasm with my giant D. Again, guys coming from a place of insecurity. So he says that. What does she think? Actually, I came mostly because I was touching myself. But I didn't mention that to keep the mood good. About a minute later, he came to and we laid in bed cuddling. It was sweet of how proud he was that I was having such a good time. It was the best that we've ever had. After a while, I started a conversation about our. So she just had the best sex she's ever had with this particular guy. And then she starts a conversation about their sex life. He says that he finds that we are progressing quickly. He also said that he finds my new dominant side hot. This is for you guys that think you're going to, I don't know what it is, but there's guys out there that try to be like, put the girl in a dominant position and think that she likes it. Anyways, it's just ridiculous. Anyways, he says it's hot and that he found the humiliation of hearing the other guy was better in bed hot, but it also hurt his feelings. I told him he was doing a really good job and that I was proud of him, but I didn't say too many positive things because unfortunately he himself started talking about himself way too positively again. He compared himself to the other guy from this is again using logic and reason to try to tell her what her feelings should be, right? Because you're going to convince her that you're better. This shit you guys do, man, I swear. A lot of you guys. So he started talking about himself way too positively again. He compared himself to the other guy from the threesome and said that he now has the same skills as him, but he is much bigger, and that's why he's a better lover now. The truth is, the other guy is still incredibly much better, but at the moment, I didn't want to hurt his feelings, so I didn't tell him. I wanted him to feel more confident again, but unfortunately, he's too self-confident again. And so, yeah, so you can see where this guy's walking away from this experience. He would be in a coaching session. Cookie time for good boy. Exactly. Jesus Christ. Exactly, dude. Some of you guys are so placating to women, you don't even realize it. You know what I mean? You don't even think that you're doing it. You don't know that you're doing it, but you are. You're placating to this chick, and it's less attractive. She'll reward you because she doesn't want to make you feel bad. You see, that's the other drive, right? Is to be socially acceptable, to not be the bad person, to make you feel bad. There's also, there's a wiring there, right? But she's going to tell you you're a good boy, but reality is she's thinking of somebody else. All right. So anyways, next I'll speed this along because I got to end the show soon. And I don't want to keep talking about this show after show. Next, I brought up that I would have an open relationship, but only if it was okay with him. So they just had the best sex. And now she's like, would you like to have an open relationship? Okay. I was afraid it would hurt him. And he immediately said yes. So understand what's happened here is that because this guy has been torturing himself with his own self-confidence issues, she has then been able to emasculate him. And because he also drives and wants sex, you now have simultaneously two intense feelings happening. The intense feeling of not feeling good enough and having that existential threat and anxiety, plus the intense feeling of wanting sex and wanting to be better. Those two things come at the same time through her emasculation that he is allowing her to do. And also she's able to do because of his lack of self-confidence. His whole reason why he shows up in the bedroom as not as good of a lay has nothing to do with necessarily the technique, although arguably maybe there is some technique stuff, but the reason for him not being better at technique is because he has to lie to himself to ego protect. Oh, I got a big D, so I'm the best at sex. See, when you guys lie to yourself and ignore these things, you don't improve anything. You don't get better. When you don't care about that, like you don't really care, but you're just going to get better because it feels better to you, feels better to the girl. It allows you to get out of your own head and actually improve on your skills. And so, but arguably it's not even the 19-year-old had these great skills necessarily. He just had confidence and didn't give a shit. You know what I mean? There's nothing special about what he was doing other than having confidence and not caring and being dominant and just handling her with outcome independence. She wanted the more dominant guy just because she's getting off on her boyfriend being placating and submissive, like a lot of you husbands do. Just because she tells you you're a good boy, okay, that doesn't mean, that she likes it better. That means she might like it better than, maybe something you were doing previously. And she might, in fact, like it and even orgasm because she's getting off on the power trip. But she's not actually liking it better than her experiences with other men or what she would actually really want. And that's going to cause her to want to mate switch and the relationship or just destroy you, destroy your self-esteem, destroy your mate value, and keep you as a slave in a relationship or discard you and make sure that you have no sense of mate value and everybody knows it so that you don't pollute the tribe with your babies. Like that's the hindbrain drive stuff. It's very savage. It's very sinister. And it's not because women are terrible, like, because they're bad people or something. It's just the instincts that are there. That's how it shows up. It is terrible, actually. Women are terrible to weak men. Women are terrible to men that don't show dominance and strength. The nicer you are will not help you out of this. Being nice doesn't help you out of this. Being strong does. Okay. Having frame does. And working on your self-confidence, independent of women. That's what does it. And if this guy had these things, he wouldn't be crossing the streams with anxiety and sexual, desire and ending up in this crazy place of confusion and being both turned on and emasculated at the same time and feeling bad about himself, and enslaving himself to this girl. I mean, it's great for her. She feels a huge boost from it, but really, how terrible for him, right? And you guys don't need to be in that spot. And a lot of you guys are or have been there because you've placated to these girls, and you need to stop doing that. And sexual skill isn't the answer to it. Sexual skill is a thing to learn. You need to learn it, but it's not the thing to get you out of this behavior. It's your mind that does. Okay. So she brings up the other guy anyway. He's now agreeing to it. I'll skip through that because, he's trying to make her happy, right? Or whatever. And he's trying to beat this guy in some weird contest. You don't have to beat anybody in a contest, guys. If you put yourself in that spot, she's just going to cuck you for the other guy anyway. All right. Unless you're the short-term mate, usually. I thought to myself, his ego could be hurt. So as he expressed the idea, he wanted to show that he was better than the other guy. That was his reasoning. So she says, after he expressed the idea, I thought to myself, his ego could be hurt one more time. That could be bad for a relationship. I was a little worried, but on the other hand, the thought made me so horny to see this guy again and to do this again. Once again, have fantastic sex with him in front of my boyfriend. And after my boyfriend, now that my boyfriend is so overconfident again and feels like a sex god, it made me horny to think about this guy doing me very well one more time in front of him. He needs to be humbled again somehow. Back again, power and emasculation, and this is what women do when you allow it. At the end of the day, it was his decision to see the guy again. I was 90% horny thinking about having sex with the guy again, and 10% worried it would damage my relationship. Ha ha. I texted him. We agreed to meet in the evening. I was excited. I told him that my boyfriend wants to fuck. So she tells the guy that I told him that my boyfriend wants to bang me better than he could in front of his eyes. And he just responded with 3 laughy faces. This guy didn't care at all. And she's just turned on by it, right? Because his confidence is through the roof. Then last night we met for dinner. The guy comes over an hour later, which annoyed my boyfriend, but was okay for me. Guy came in, hugged me. And grabbed my ass in front of my boyfriend. And then we entered my apartment. We sat down at the table. Atmosphere is nice. Even my boyfriend seemed a bit stressed. We had a nice conversation and laughed a lot. Suddenly, the other guy kissed me and took off my shirt and started doing stuff, right? My boyfriend reacted immediately. He was almost frantic. He took off my pants and started, going down. It was kind of funny because he knelt under the table to do so. Ha ha. I think he had a plan before meeting me to give me an orgasm by going down. The other guy kissed me only for a short time. After there, he sat there and just looked at me in the eyes. He looked deep in my eyes and said nothing. But somehow his look said, I'm going to give it to you really good today. Well, my boyfriend was giving everything by going down. The other guy sat there staring at me for minutes. And it made me incredibly horny. See, it's a mental framework, dude. The guy didn't do anything. And she was already turned on by the other guy. His mental dominance is what was the turn on. And the fact that she was cucking her boyfriend was a mental turn on, right? The fact that she was emasculating somebody, at least, not that you would have to do this in a threesome, but, she does this in her mind for the other guys. She's been with her, wanted to be with her. just understand. My heart was beating incredibly fast. I was just waiting for him to start touching me, and it made me incredibly horny. Probably my boyfriend thought he did this so well, and because I was extremely wet, but to be honest, it's the other guy looking at me that made me so excited. After some time, the other guy grabbed me by the hair, pulled me by the couch, sat down on the couch, sat me down on the couch. I knelt and gave him head. My boyfriend crawled out from under the table and said to me, "I'll blank you, go down on you until you have an orgasm." Like, so this guy, again, placating, trying hard. Since I was kneeling in front of the other guy, it was not so easy for him to keep going. Therefore, he laid down on the floor to get me from below. I thought it was cute, really, that he wanted to keep going down on me and have me sit on my face while I was giving this other guy head. And then she starts talking about the other guy and how much he desired him and whatever. And then she was begging the other guy to bang her. I really wanted to have him inside of me, but he just kept having me, go down on him before he bangs me. I kept begging for him and he kept making me wait. So this guy's not doing anything. He's just doing push-pull and psychological game. And the other guy's doing all this work, probably studied up, probably watched a million, tutorials on how to go down on a girl. Doesn't matter. You see how the psychology matters more? After some time, my boyfriend said he wanted to go at me now, but I didn't allow him and remained sitting on his face for now. But after a short time, I let him stand up and he went doggy style while I continued to give this guy head. I thought it was good to have something inside of me, but I wanted the other guy. So after 1 or 2 minutes, I almost yell at the other guy, "I need you now." He got up and carried me back to the dining table, laid me on it. My boyfriend looked shocked, guilty, and humiliated, but my need for the other guy was too urgent. The other guy had tortured me for too long. Instead of putting it in my vagina, he pounded the surface with my D. The technique made me so horny, and I've never felt this way in my whole life. It was so incredibly intense. Dude, it's not that big of a technique, is it? It's basic. It's all the psychology, right? That went into it. That's what got it. Okay. My boyfriend looked at me while jerking off. I told him to lick my feet again, which he did immediately. Then the other guy was just teasing her, right? It was the most intense experience she ever had, because then he started banging her. And then, since it was so intense for her, he started banging her and it made her squirt. And so she's all about this other guy. And then she had, 3 orgasms right in a row. It was the best sex she had in her life. It was all of this stuff, right? She's talking about how she's having the best sex of her life while her boyfriend is trying to lick her feet and be a part of it. This is the most pathetic story, unfortunately, and I feel bad for the other guy. It's all because of his mental frame, dude. His mental frame is off. So then after my boyfriend also effed me, it felt good. His deep thrusts were great, but it was nowhere near as good as the other guy. And my boyfriend came in about a couple minutes. I asked him, "Oh, already over?" You can see the emasculation, right? He quietly said yes and seemed disappointed. And me and the other guy stayed in the living room and started a second round. After a few minutes, the other guy said, "Maybe your boyfriend wants to watch. We should go to your bedroom." She's like, "I was against it because I thought we should give him some space. But when we opened the door, I saw that my boyfriend was kind of trying to wank it and get himself going again. He seemed to be listening after all anyway. So, and he was ashamed of it or whatever. And anyways, goes back into her shaming him. And they have a third and fourth, they had a couple other rounds right in front of this guy. And she's talking about it was the best experience, right? And she's like, "My boyfriend spoke almost nothing, seemed a bit angry, pissed off. But every time the other guy went for me, he watched and it seemed to hurt his ego. After 10 a.m., the guy left, and my boyfriend went to see some afternoon. We didn't talk about it. He's still at went to his friend's place, but he texted me, "I love you." I'm curious to see how it goes with us. I love my boyfriend, but I also love sex with the other guy. And so the rest, she has another post. I won't read the whole thing, but it's how the guy's like, yeah. The guy's like, okay, I don't want you to see this other guy again. And then she's basically like, but I think I want to. And she wants to open up the relationship. Anyways, it's kind of where and she loves this push-pull. See, her addiction, or not addiction necessarily, but her drive is to emasculate this other guy. And understand, though, that that's a drive in all women. If they see you as a weaker guy, they want to emasculate you. All right. If they see you maybe as not the best mating choice, she'll want to emasculate you. And when you get into a relationship with her, when you do things for her, you elevate her to your level. And it's your strong frame and not allowing for this emasculating behavior to happen, continue with your boundaries. And also the dread that should be there naturally because you're a guy who's on his purpose and who's, working on himself and making himself better every day. It's those two things, the dread and the strong frame that you have, that will prevent her from emasculating you and being successful in that and sending the message that you are the better choice every single time. And then that cuck psychology, that feeling of dominance and feeling of being better, gets shifted. It's not her cucking you, it's every other guy she's been with. Any other guy that hits on her, tries it, she laughs about it, tells you about it. This guy's a dork, this, that, and the other. It's even her girlfriends who are with guys and not having great relationships, and she can feel better than her girlfriends, more elevated, better sexual market value, because she's with you having a better relationship while her girlfriends struggle with these other guys. And you see, these are all different versions of this cuck psychology. It's not like not every girl wants to have a threesome with two guys and humiliate another guy. That's not what I mean. When people don't know how to think properly, they don't understand when I say the cuck psychology. But it's the psychology of knowing that you have a better choice here, and that what allows you to know that is having dominance of being better than everybody else out there. You see, as the guy in a girl's life, you're either the cucked or you're the bull. That you're one or the other. You're not. She may not think about it like in these terms, and you might not either. But that is the truth. That is the reality of it. You're either the cucked or you're the bull. She's either seeing you as the best option and, feeling a sense of gratification that you're better than exes, that you're better than other options she has, or she's looking for opportunities to emasculate you and have power over you and seeing other dudes as potential better choices. It's one or the other. That is what it is. So that's the lesson. And all of those videos, my most popular videos, unfortunately, on cuck psychology have illustrated that. Let's go watch those, okay? But this little story in this two-part thing illustrates that in real time in the sexual scenario. And then the other part is it's not about looks and size of your D and even technique as much. I argue that the guy, her boyfriend she criticized for his technique not being perfect wasn't about technique, because she was hornier with the other guy's psychological framework. He was just staring at her and giving her a dominant look while another guy was doing stuff to her. And what made her horny was the guy staring at her. You can be better than anything another man has done to a girl's vagina just by giving her a look, when you know how to execute dominance in your life. and in your relationship, and when you have frame, when you illustrate through your behavior, not through your, goofy logic trying to convince and I must be better than the other guy because of A, B, and C, right? And all your bullshit and your ego protection. But when you genuinely illustrate through your behavior that you are the dominant, better sexual choice, just a look can make that girl get more excited and more intense than anything anybody else has ever done to her down there. Any technique, anything that's ever gone on. And that's what's important here. That's what you need to understand. It's about here. It's about your frame. Okay. The other things add to it or they take away from it. But it's not about those other things. One last super. How do you know this? If you don't know, you'll get hard. I don't understand that question. I'm not really sure what you mean. And I have to go now. So I'm going to suggest, thanks for the super. I don't understand what you mean by that question, though, man. I really don't. It's not really a complete sentence, okay? So maybe in the YouTube comment, throw it in. What was the other one? Yeah, so that was the other one that you gave me. So yeah, maybe in the YouTube comments, put it in a little bit better detail question, and I'll answer it in the comment section. All right. We're gonna have more shows. We got more things to talk about that are a lot more important than reading this goofy ass story, but there's a lot of lessons here. And hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe, and get on my email list. It's free. I should have said that earlier, but I always say that you always know it's there. I mean, there's a lot of really actionable stuff and good stuff. It's all free that comes to your email, and it's, newsletter style stuff. No spam, nothing like that. It's all good stuff. That's it. Catch you guys next time.